Hey, good morning. Or whatever time it is. This is Jim Sunderwirth. Good to see you today. Hey, listen, aren't you kind of enjoying this in a way? The Ten Commandments. We're talking about the Ten Commandments. No other gods before you. No graven images. Do not take the name of the Lord in vain. Honor your mother and your father. You know, do not take your name of the Lord in vain. Keep the Sabbath day. Keep the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Then honor your mother and your father. And it's an amazing thing. It says, do not murder. Do not take a life. It's not your right to take a life. It's not. It's God's. And God honors. He honors mankind. He honors a man, and so he values their life. And we are to value the life too, because we don't want to stop potential of God's will in that person's life, because God has a plan for every life. All right, and that's a kind of thing to think about, especially in America. I know a lot of people have had abortions, and God can forgive that, but you got to remember this thought too. It's not just killing; it's murder, because you're stopping God from doing what He wanted to do in that child's life. I believe that with all my heart. Anyway, so that's somebody going by in a boat. Isn't that cool? We're waving. Hello. Anyway, so we're talking about something that's extremely important this time, because you see, God really, He honors and He believes in family, and He believes in marriage. He believes in marriage, and so He said these words. This is another commandment. He said, "You shall not commit adultery," sexual sin. Any sin, any sex outside of the bonds of marriage is sin, because it doesn't bring life. It really brings emptiness. And if there's a relationship that is broken because someone commits adultery with another person's partner, a husband or wife, it always ends up in misery. It doesn't work. I'm telling you, can you imagine? Proverbs 6:34 says these words, "For jealousy arouses a husband's fury." And he says that, "And he shall show no mercy when he takes revenge." I'm telling you what, God says, I want you to stay free. Listen, you don't murder somebody, you don't have to look over your shoulder. If you don't commit adultery, you don't have to look over your shoulder. Marriage is the most perfect place where God meant for you to enjoy one another and have children, have the family. These are commandments that keep us free. They keep us free. And it's an amazing thing, because we are to value marriage and value keeping ourselves whole and pure. And one thing I found out, I read a statistic. You can talk about all kinds of things, divorce and all the different sins that can happen. But when you talk about adultery, committing adultery, it's 92% of the people that were surveyed, 92% said it's wrong. It's wrong, because it tears up, it destroys. And God says, I want you free. I want you free. But then Jesus comes along, and He says in Matthew 5, He says these words. He says, you've heard it was said to those of old, you shall not commit adultery, right? But I say unto you, this is Jesus. He says, I say unto you, whoever looks at a woman and lusts for her has already committed adultery in his heart. Again, where does Jesus look? He says, some of you get angry and you say, well, I didn't kill anybody, but you've killed them in your heart. He said, I've not committed murder, but you've lusted in your mind. What does Jesus want us to do? What should we do? And then on this commandment, He said these words. He said we should bring our thoughts to the obedience of Christ. Bring every thought. When you say, listen, that doesn't say you can't. My wife, she'll look over and say, look at her. That lady is a beautiful lady. And we'll look at it and we'll say, God created a beautiful lady there. But I'm not lusting after her. I'm just seeing the creation that's beautiful, because I bring my thoughts. 2 Corinthians 10:4 says, bring every thought. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to casting down imaginations. Casting down imaginations, bringing every thought to the obedience of Christ. Oh, that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And he says, finally, my brother, Philippians 4:8 says, Think on these things: whatsoever are noble, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there's any virtue. Let's don't get caught up in the way we think about sex or think about the opposite sex. Let's just stay free and give and receive and enjoy what God gives us, the gift of marriage, the gift of where we can use it freely and enjoy it and not be incarcerated with guilt. No, God says, I don't want that. I want you to be free, so don't commit adultery. Well, see you tomorrow. Bye.